Yeah. Look.
Konnichiwa. Welcome to the Martial Maze. I'm with my partner in crime, Barakula Chidoshi.
And I'm with my partner here, Israel Lopez Sensei. What's up?
Oh man, listen. So we back at it, y'all. Modern Combatives, Diane Wallander. Let me say her name properly, Diane Wallander, and Miyamiru Jitsu. So that dropped. We got Shion Cassidy. You know what I'm saying? Shion Pat. That's next week. And then after that, we have Winshow Wu, so Hungar Fu Hawk. Yeah, so we got that right there on deck. After that, we got your event coming up.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I'm very excited. Very excited about doing this event. I just want to bring to the surface the importance of Budo. A lot of us have abandoned the way and chose to do a lot of hybrid arts. And we, everyone loves to eat the fruit off the tree, but no one respects the tree. No one respects the roots, where it all came from. And, by doing this, I want people to, really respect the way of Budo and to bring it. I want people to get excited about this. And then the only way to do this is by doing this event so people are able to make the connections from what they're doing and realize that the Japanese always had it. In the first place, they always had it together when it came to Japanese grappling. All right. Okay. And so to share that and show that not much has changed when we're talking about warfare. All right. We still got 2 arms and 2 legs and 1 head. So,
I'm digging that.
Right. And so, I'm very excited about sharing these traditions of the samurai.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Now, that's the 27th of April.
Correct.
It's going to be held in Springfield, Massachusetts. Martial Maze is part of it. Yo! The maze in itself. No, I'm just really ridiculous. Have that No. Yes, I know. Excited. I mean, we got a whole host of things coming up with that in mind. We're doing seminar series and starting to travel the country. You about to be a superstar. You're going to be all over the place. Like with visa everywhere you want to be.
Yeah, man. I can dig it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm digging that. 5 million ways to Sunday. Yeah, so I mean, today's episode, we've kind of touched base on it, but it came from a post. Gabriel Gonzaga had posted this, and it talks about the color system in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you know what? I'm gonna just try to play it real quick.
So hold on for a quick second while I set this up. Okay, here we go.
How rare is it to have a colored belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? First off, there are 4 colored belts in BJJ: blue, purple, brown, and black, if we're not taking the coral and red belts into account, as they are only held by 98 people. Only 10% of white belts make it to blue belt, and about 5% of blue belt make it to purple belts. And that takes an average of 5.25 years, which is a little over a year longer than the average to become a taekwondo or a karate black belt. Now the percentages are getting higher, as about 33% of purple belts make it to brown belt. Now consider this: out of approximately 2.95 million people practicing BJJ worldwide, there are only about 7,447 registered black belts on IBJJF. This means that only around 0.25% of practitioners actually reach black belt status. With 8.1 billion population, you could say that 1 in every million people on Earth holds a BJJ black belt. And with roughly 294,240 people holding colored belts, that's less than 0.004% of the global population. This makes every single colored belt in BJJ not just rare, but a symbol of something truly amazing. All these stats for you to tell your friends with a colored belt in BJJ that they are onto something truly amazing.
So, having listened to the video, listen to that reel, like I said, this is something the importance of why I brought it up and wanted to play it is that's what karate used to be. Back in the day, if you were a green belt, because remember, it was white, green, brown, black, right? When you were a green belt, dude, no dude could just walk into your school off the street and hand you guys your ass. No, you handle that. Boom. It didn't matter what art he was coming or what he might have been a wrestler beforehand. He was this beforehand. He walked into a karate school, or I would say Okinawan school. You know what I'm saying? Back then,
yes.
you got handed your ass. You got handed your ass. Handedly. You know understand what I'm saying? Nowadays, you got little kids walking around with black belts on, and I feel like anybody doing that is a disservice. You're a businessman trying to make money. You know what I'm saying? And I guess there's a place for that, but me personally, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I agree. You know, there should be a certain maturity level. You have to be a certain age to obtain that. You know, unless you're some kind of prodigy like we have, you know, like certain kids who graduated college at 15 or something like that. You have to be something extremely special. And that's on a case-by-case basis kind of thing where the instructor will make that judgment call. But yeah, no, back in the day, well, also too, we didn't have to worry about getting sued.
Yeah, but
there was a lot of.
But like with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's not forever. Like, there are people who get to a level and they leave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now some say because of injuries.
Or they hit a wall.
Or they leave. They realize, well, this isn't really for me, da-da-da-da. And, it hasn't really affected the bottom line because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu places are popping up all over the place.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
No, the difference is there's the Charlotte. You can't fake not knowing how to grapple.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you can fake all the stand-up stuff. And then to those folks that want to talk about, well, you know, martial arts isn't what it like, because I say that I've actually said that. I've said that in a couple episodes. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. However, it should. Me personally, Israel Lopez personally feels that the word martial arts is the art of making war. Period. Full stop. And again, you get these tools, you learn different things, and I liken this to learning a firearm, right? What do you use a gun for? You know what I'm saying? I can use it for hunting, and I can use it to kill another person. Either way, the mechanics, the function, everything about that gun, you know what I'm saying, or that rifle is geared around this. It doesn't change based upon my perception, right? I'm not going to use my rifle to cook. I'm not going to use a rifle to clean my house. You know what I'm saying? And so that'd be a whole different kind of cleaning. But, you know, so I'm not going to take it out of context and say, well, yes, there are byproducts you can get from martial arts, right? There are secondary things, secondary skills. The way you process information, that's a secondary skill. You know what I'm saying? I got fit. That's a secondary benefit. You know what I mean? But if we say, well, those are the reasons why I studied martial arts, right? Well, I studied to lose weight or to get better at this. You could have gotten all of that from something else.
Yeah, true indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's how schools advertise now. And so that's why people sign up, all right, because of weight management and everything else. They present all of that there. Why should I join this school? Look at all the bullet points. That's why I should join that school.
And I'm for that. If those are secondary benefits, but ultimately, I'm learning to fight.
Right.
So if by the time I make a showdown, I can't take or receive a punch from anybody who actually wants to punch me. You know what I'm saying? I can't effectively utilize any of the self-protection, self-defense stuff they've given me. Like I got one or two of them. Or there was a woman back in the day. We used to clown her all the time because I'm going to rename her, leave her name out of it. But she had a black belt in this system, and she would always just try to kick you in the groin. Anytime you worked out with her, that's all she'd do. That was her go-to move, to try to kick you in the groin. And it was like, well, you have a black belt. You know all this stuff, all this information. You're supposed to know all this information. And the only thing you keep walking away, that's the only thing you took away from the last 5 years was a groin kick. Ma'am, I feel like you've been just wasting your money.
Yeah.
Like you could have done so many other things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was embarrassing to not only us that were all training around this person, but even because again, it wasn't my school, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. But I remember saying to the sensei, the head instructor at school, that's not good. Like it was just kind of, that's what's going on. And Izzy, come on, you need to just no, that's just not good.
Right.
And after that, we kind of started separating ourselves.
Right. And people don't like that. People don't want to hear that, you know, and you make people feel uncomfortable, you know, and like I said, people get into it for various reasons. All right. And so, yes, you know, for me personally, I think all martial arts can be faked. BJJ right along with it until someone with the eye can expose you. All right. And that's why a lot of these folks can get by for so long, because they haven't met anyone that was able to expose them. All right. And some get exposed and some don't. And so as long as they can stay undercover, All right, this is like being undercover, doing vice work in martial arts. As long as they can profile that front, hey, they're making money and laughing to the bank until they meet someone that understands. There was a person, there was quite a few people that faked BJJ and had a legitimate storefront. Okay,
in
Florida.
Got caught out there.
Yeah, but they were in operation for quite some time.
Well,
no one just goes by and say, "Hey, let me see your papers." Well,
it's not even papers. I mean, realistically, what started happening was reels and social media. And like Rob said this on when we did the interview with him. That's Rob from McDojo Life. I remember him making a solid point. It's when the public decides that that's no longer acceptable. And I think that's really what happened with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it should happen with karate. Mm-hmm. It should happen at some point when the public says, no, we should know some self-defense, self-protection, right? And when the greater public started seeing what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually looks like, what skills that every school, no matter where you go in the United States anyway, you're going to learn these sets of skills right away. And you can tell the guys who watch YouTube videos over the guys who actually learned it.
Right.
You know what I'm
Big
saying?
Difference.
Yeah, because it's just how their approach to it is just very different.
Big difference.
I get it. There are a lot of guys out there that do a lot of really good tutorials, and they bring up a lot of really good points, and they're really great for referencing and stuff like that.
That's what I use it.
Yeah,
referencing.
You still got to go and get there on the mat and work out. Case in point, it's the same thing when we watch these reels with self-protection, self-defense, and we always get that. I always say we always get that keyboard person or that martial artist that'll fire back with, that'll never work. Mm-hmm. That'll never work in real life. That even case in point, one of the last episodes that we just dropped, somebody had already commented, too bad that woman will never learn those techniques, will never work. I'm like, Sanku works 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. I've used it on many occasions. I used it getting folks, walking somebody out of a nightclub in security. You know what I'm saying? Guy put his hands on me instantly. Boom, I had it. Boom, Sanku lifted his body up. Boom. He wasn't. And those that like, well, I could just punch you with my other arm. No, you wouldn't. You get your. Anybody who's ever been in Sanku understands that, yeah, the mindset might be there, but he's going to break your damn arm. Your arm's gone.
Yeah, they don't know what it feels like until they're put into that
until that's happening.
Position.
Boom. And again, it's not like a fight where me and the person had fisticuffs up right
different.
away, and we were engaging in a mutual combative.
That's the problem, and they're looking at it like
exactly.
that, and they're two entirely different things.
Yeah, I'm like, bottom line, it's just, especially with a hair pull. I said any art that like we were talking about this off air. I said, hair pulls happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you got dreads.
Yes.
And if your art doesn't address that hair pull, and again, it's not like I was squared up with you and then pulled your hair. No, you were at the nightclub sipping on your beverage, minding your own damn business. I came up, grabbed you by your hair from behind and attempted to attack you.
Or it can happen in a clinch.
Yeah, in a clinch. Yeah, I'm like, so there are plenty of ways that kind of thing happens, and you should be able to address it. But when somebody's addressing the information, that's what you should be looking at when I always say when people watch these reels and stuff like that, you should be looking at the information that's being put across before you start commenting, that would never work in real life. Yes. I love those guys. That'll never work in real life.
You know what? This is when you are when you've been teaching martial arts as long as we have, there's one thing that I do in my school with self-defense classes is that I want my students to think critically about certain situations. And so if you're put into a certain situation, what would you do? Because it's interesting to see how people think out there. They've been in the martial arts, but I like it when someone has never done the art before. Mm-hmm. What would you do? How would you discharge your firearm? I mean, like, how would you pull your knife? What are things that you would do that maybe I wouldn't? You try to stump me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm going to show you because I want you to be as organic as possible. All right? Because we're here to think about different situations that could possibly arise. And now, how quick can you troubleshoot those situations?
Yes.
And so there's a woulda, shoulda, couldas. There's a lot of what ifs. And I think that is a very good thing to bring to the martial arts. But to sit there and just be in the background with a bucket of popcorn, that will never work. And come on, bruh.
Yeah, I always find those kind of things ridiculous. However, circling back,
make a video and show me what you would do. Put something up there, match it.
My always thing is go visit that place.
That too, but
go visit that place.
Put up a video, bro. At least she got a video up. Put up something. Let me see you. Who are you?
Yeah. No, but it's as Haskin Sensei is that punch here for a live demonstration, and that's what happens. So a lot of these guys, they look at it, they go, oh no, and I'm going, yeah, well, again, you're taking it out of context,
Yep.
and context is everything.
Yep.
But circling back though,
Your ego gets involved.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Israel Lopez Sensei of the Martial Maze. If you're a fan of our podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, did you know that you could support future episodes on both platforms by becoming a subscriber to our Patreon? Membership entitles you to exclusive Martial Maze content not shared on either the podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, as well as limited edition only available to our Patreon subscribers merchandise. That's exclusive stuff, y'all. Where there are 3 different tiers to choose from, bronze, silver, or gold memberships, gold being the very best. No matter what tier, and to show our appreciation for you, the subscriber, and to celebrate our 4th season of the Martial Maze podcast, we are giving away to one lucky subscriber every month free Martial Maze merchandise. That merchandise is anything that we sell on our Martial Maze page. That's www.martialmaze.com. A new winner will be chosen each month through the duration of 2024. That's our way of sincerely saying thank you. But please keep in mind, you can't win if you're not a subscriber. That's the Martial Maze at Patreon. And once again, thank you for becoming a subscriber, and thank you for listening.
Going back to just that, so yes, it's a great marketing video for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, we can see why, but it used to be that way for regular karate. It used to be that way for Okinawa.
Well,
it used to be that way for Kempo and stuff like that. No,
on the mainstream level, you're right. But no, there are schools out there today that are teaching it just that way. And they haven't lost a skip. Okay? Period. Some of them are teaching in a way before, like Ngoju. Under, like Miyagi Sensei, before there was no belt system. That's something Japanese related. But they didn't want to be a part of this whole belt thing. That didn't exist there. All right? Put it this way, even more, and this is what opened the door for charlatans. When Miyagi Sensei passed away, because he really didn't incorporate the whole belt system. Listen, his top ranking students had no grade. All right. So they ended up promoting themselves to downgrade to be recognized by the Dai Nippon Butokukai. All right. That gives those ranks out.
Well, but even with that, and I say sometimes that's a toxicity with federations sometimes, because you get people who bought their rank, and they're walking around with checkered color belts on. And again, I don't look at you, I look at your students.
Right.
I look at what you're turning out. And again, I'm looking at events, I'm watching what you post online. We're watching all these things, and I get it, you know what I'm saying? And it's one thing, the untrained eye, it's another thing with the trained eye, and you're going, that's just trash. Hey, now, don't get me wrong. If you take anything like Kempo, the American Kempo, and you put it into the context of being able to use it for real, you'll see that it changes. It looks very different.
Oh, it's different
than what you see some of these places that are coming out, and they got tons of students there. That's what I got over 100 students, and we're doing this, that, and the third. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, you got 100 students. You got a bunch of kids with black belts on that can't kick, they can barely bow, but more importantly, they can't receive. Because that's going to happen.
Right.
In a real fight, you're going to get hit.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what you know, how long you've been studying. If you get hit and you can't receive getting hit, and your body shuts down, your mind, you boom, boom, it don't matter what you know. It's going to fail you.
Well, we've seen a lot of these arts in live action when UFC first launched. A lot of Kempo players. We've seen a lot of players jump in that cage. And
I've seen a lot of people leave martial arts schools that they were at for years.
And this is when I started questioning whether someone is really living the way. all right, or versus just going through the motions. And majority of folks are going through the motions, all right, and they're not truly living that way, and they think they're living that way because they're delusional because the time they served, all right. And then when you see them in that cage, all of those techniques that you had to do to get that belt, I didn't see any of that in that cage.
Abandoned all of it.
What I seen was someone just go hamburger. All right, and doing what the average street fighter would do.
Oh yeah, well, and bandit. but again, going back to context, there's a whole host of arts that weren't designed for the sport mindset. They're not designed well for sport.
Well, this was at that time there was no rules.
Yeah, well, I think at that point in time, and I think Kathy Long talked about it too. And I really, because she was there,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And I think there were other people that were there that would tell you. Everybody was having a hard time understanding that there were no rules. Because remember, all the guys they got were all guys that came from some kind of a sport, PKA,
right,
whatever. They were all they all had competed in a sport context. So they were like, what do you mean no rules?
Yep.
What are the rules? No rules.
I can grab it growing.
But it was just that. They were like, can we do this? And well, no, you can't do that. But you can do that. But you can't do that. But you can do that. And it was like, well, okay. And then again, you still default back to when you're doing anything. That's what I say. If you train always pulling your punches, when the time comes, what do you think you do in real life? You pull your punches.
You're gonna do the same thing
because that's what you're used to doing,
right.
And your body defaults back to when you no longer are thinking, your body goes to a default mode,
right,
and stuff like that. So, with that being said, you had a bunch of guys who defaulted back to. You what they, you know what I mean? While you had Gracies who were we used to train in like this all the time. We doing Valley Tudos all the time.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. You never have a guy fight a fight that you do a tournament.
Right.
And everybody says it's a big marketing thing for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I would say yes and no all at the same time because those guys were still fighters.
Yeah.
The other people who competed were still fighters. Mm-hmm. They were topping their divisions and they went in and they fought.
Right.
They just had never addressed that before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because, again, a lot of arts didn't allow you to grapple.
Right.
Once you hit the ground. Two guys clash, boom. Think about even when we were doing full contact karate. Full contact karate, when you clash and two guys, you hit the ground, they call a mate and separate you, and you started back up to standing.
Right.
And stuff like that. No, if you would have what? In the first UFC, there was a guy who tapped out. They didn't even have anything on him. Mm-hmm. He just was holding. It was the guy with the one boxing glove on. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I remember that.
I
remember that.
And he just taps out.
Right.
Like he had nothing on him,
right,
and stuff like that. He had never been there before.
Right.
And he was panicking, couldn't breathe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And just was
he
like,
didn't
nah.
know what to do.
Yeah, I know what to do. I can almost 100% see why folks are leaving with the traditional karate programs and this, that, and the third, and moving on to things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And don't get me wrong, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu isn't 100%. It's 100% for what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's great for the ground game, this, that, and the third. And yes, you can develop some stand-up stuff, this, that, and the third. But when you're getting to a point where you had to leave the art that you're studying, like you got somebody who's going, yo, I studied Kaji Kempo for X amount of years. I studied, and I'm bringing up Kempo because there's a lot. I've heard this a lot in the Kempo world where I met a lot of guys who've left Kempo, American Kempo, and said, well, it was ineffective. And I said, well, and again, not calling out instructors, not calling out people and stuff like that. They were just kind of like, I got into a situation where I fought somebody else who could fight and got dusted. Mm-hmm. And it was realistically, we weren't allowed to hit at the dojo. We weren't allowed to do these techniques at the dojo and stuff like that. So I got used to training this kind of way. And then I'm going to point fighting tournaments, so I'm not really striking too hard.
Right.
And I'm really moving fast and stuff like that. And we fell into that.
Right,
I mean,
we all started that way.
And it was one of the things that's why I left point fighting, because for just that reason, it wasn't real.
It's a game of tag.
Yeah. I'm like, here my thing wasn't, because you notice we all were training that way. You blasting some, I'm still blasting people, but when you blast them, you got disqualified.
Right.
Excessive contact.
Right.
Too hard. You know what I'm saying?
If you were Q rank.
Yeah.
If you were Q rank,
I remember when Bolo got disqualified in Holyoke because he hit that guy with that sidekick and just broke him.
Hey, man, that's it. That's on him, man. It's all about the fighter, man.
But he did. He hit him with that. I've never seen a person ripple like that in my life. He hit that boy with that sidekick, and guys, it wasn't a sidekick where to listeners. It wasn't a side kick where the guy got pushed. He hit him with that side kick where the guy rippled and fell in his place. He folded around. His body folded around the foot. And I couldn't have been older than like 15 at the time. 15 seeing that, and I remember that kick because back in the day, Bolo. We all know Bolo, right? It's Bolo Mark Whitley, from Taekwondo, but he. Boom, and we all had the foot pads on, but it didn't like a blade kick. It wasn't really shielding your leg.
It's not.
No. So he, like it was one of you could see it in slow motion. That dude had his hands up too high. I don't know what that guy was thinking, but I think he was trying to go for a back fist, like a flying, a jumping back fist, and
got hammered.
Before his body left the ground, Bolo was like, "Pop!" and he just rippled.
Yep.
It fell straight down. And then I remember because there was a tiff because he got disqualified. I think I'm almost 99.9% sure he got disqualified.
That's odd.
And it was because it was excessive.
I guess according to that tournament and who sanctioned it, and that could have been.
Well, look at the Olympics.
I've been in enough tournaments where you get hammered. Hammered. That's the risk you take.
Didn't it actually happen at the Olympics? The guy came in, gets knocked out
recently.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah, that was some bull crap.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. He ran into the guy,
literally ran into.
So he wins the goal, and
the one got disqualified.
Yeah, for winning,
for doing the right thing.
Yeah, doing the right thing. So I said, well, that's the wussification. That's what happens, y'all. I'm like, but again, somebody said that no, it's because of the rules. And I was like. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
And if that's the game you want to play, then be my guest. Yeah. But, we're talking about the real world, and the martial arts was designed for the real world. And so when you take that element away, what do you have?
Exactly.
What do you have?
And then also I go back to the one thing as a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is you can grapple.
Right.
You can grapple.
Right.
Like you might not be able to beat a brown belt. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Who knows? But the average person, you're going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? You have it. You have enough.
You got enough.
You know what I'm saying?
Can play.
Where you can play, I can keep you at bay.
Right.
I can stand up if I need to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? If I hit the ground, I'm confident on my back, I can get up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So I think that and again, I'm not trying to advertise for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in no way, shape, or form. I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is at a blue belt, which is their equivalent to a green belt, in what it used to be anyway, for karate, was the same. That's what it used to be.
Right.
So a green belt in your martial system should be able to defend themselves. And what we're finding now is that first off, not only does the green belt not only know how to not be able to defend themselves properly, you know what I'm saying, but the black belt can't either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're going, and meanwhile, then I said these guys should be ashamed of themselves because they laughing to the bank. They getting paid laughing to the bank. And when I say ashamed of yourself, is because you gave these kids a false sense of security. You're giving these people, adults, young adults, a false sense of security.
These dojos now it's like Halloween. It's one big dress up. All right, a lot of it's one big dress up, and like I said, if we could just give them some surface material. And that's pretty much what it is, this surface material, enough to make them believe that they are very capable of handling themselves. Hey, it works.
But I think that's what's chapping my ass, is because all of that stuff works. It's been battle tested in the past. It does work when you take it into the concept of wanting it to work.
Right.
But if I'm concerned about getting paid and not concerned about teaching a viable art or a viable system, you know what I'm saying? Then that's the context, right? I'm trying to make my money, and I really don't care if you learn a thing.
I'm
trying to keep that 100 student base.
Yeah, that too, and just a lot of fakes out there. And that's really done a lot of damage.
Well,
to
until
the martial
the general
arts.
public starts to hold these folks accountable.
Yeah,
and say, yo, look, man, I shouldn't have to leave your place. Go to a new place and find out everything you were teaching me at this place is trash. It didn't work.
Right.
It don't work.
Right. And when we talk about the grading process and how long it takes, I mean, no, this is something that's always been done in Japan. All right. You have two types of grading systems. All right. You have the Kyudan grading system, which is in some traditions 20 steps. All right. And then you have the licensing from traditional Japanese martial arts. Now, what folks need to understand, Kano Sensei was a genius in this, and because he knew how the tradition operated. All right, so he first designed 3 belts. It was white, brown, black, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and so that alone was perfect because when you gotta understand when you are mukyu, all right, and you're just coming up into this. The same thing when you're doing a traditional Japanese system like what I teach. There's a entry, and it's called the okuri or the oku. This is your secret, your beginning of your secret entry into the system. That period takes at least 4 to 5 years. All right, period. So when you now do the equation, you're like, oh, wait a minute. How long does it take to at least get a black belt in the system? About 4 years, 5 years, depending on what tradition. That's your initiation, first and foremost, okay? Now, after that, if you're still in the tradition, there is something that is called mukuroku. All right, and that alone, to get the mukuroku, is called catalog, okay? Once you are cataloged, now you're in a line, you're in a succession now, okay? So it takes about 4 to 5 years to get to mokuroku, okay? Now, to get to the next stage, the next level, all right, is, well, in other schools, it's called shomuroku, all right? And then you have gomokuroku. Okay, and those are, the first one that I just said was called the beginning, and then the gomokuroku is like the end. Okay, that takes about maybe, I would say, give or take, to get to the shomenroku about 7 years, and then about maybe 9 to 10 years to get to gomokuroku. Okay, now once you get to that level, that's when you get a minkyo.
Yeah.
All right. And that's around 15 years of service. All right. So you get your first minkyo. When you get your first minkyo, now that's giving you the ability to instruct and teach.
Yeah.
After 15 years of service. Okay. Now you have your different levels of minkyo. You have to start with shoden minkyo. Okay. From Shoden Minkyo, you go to Chuden Minkyo, and then from Chuden Minkyo, Okuden Minkyo, and then Haiden Minkyo, and then Minkyo Kaiden, which no one gets, all right? Because that only goes to the successor, or usually back in the day, it went to the son.
Well, because again, it goes back to when you think about combatives in general. You have you only most only need to go up to a certain point.
That's
it. Like, I just need to be able to work combat, go shoot some shit, and I might become a specialist. I might grab the hog, learn how to serve it, and that, boom. And then the other guy might learn. Yeah. And it wasn't until we decided we need to make money.
Martial Maze presents the Modern Combative series on YouTube. The Martial Maze takes an in-depth documentary-style approach to not only the martial arts techniques found in the systems, but the practitioners of those very systems as well. With over a combined 50-plus years of martial arts experience, Barack Yalin Shidoshi and Israel Lopez Sensei endeavor to explore it all as they travel the United States, exploring modern combative systems. So be sure not to miss the Martial Maze presents Modern Combative series on YouTube.
Well, it was to also make Westerners feel like they're achieving something, because most Westerners had a hard time waiting, because according to Kano's methods, it was just white, brown, black. And so what's his name? Kaiwashi Sensei. He was under Kano Sensei in Paris. He added the color system in there. Yellow, yellow,
because
orange,
again, it
purple,
goes back
blue.
to looking at a grading system, but hey, we need to make money.
Right.
So we have to have a way to keep people in the door, to keep them from
them
going
engaged.
up. But I mean, well, keep that in mind. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu employs something very similar. Stripes. They just put like your white belt has little things on it.
That's what I do with my
benchmark.
students. The same
yeah,
thing.
It just benchmarks you up there. Well, yeah, you've been here X amount of long. But realistically, most of the guys I know that play Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I remember this was the same way with karate back in the day. You weren't concerned about your rank. You just trained.
Right. That's it.
You came there to get good at some shit. You know what I'm saying? You came there to look. I started learning when I always count my teenage adult years, because when we started as a 5, you didn't give a 5 and you didn't give a shit 5.5. You know what I'm saying? This was something to do, like Karate Kid, and maybe you went to you hit the point fighting tournaments, and you were just doing the thing.
Wait a minute, you mean 5.5, 5 years started?
Yeah, 5.5 years old.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, that's why I always say.
I was like, you're still a baby. You're still
I
a
was saying
beginner.
the martial journey began then.
Right.
But I'd only count my teenage years because I was more aware.
Yeah, you were
as
mature.
a teenager. Yeah, and stuff like that.
It's still added.
Yeah.
Your youth.
I just always try not to do. Well, I started back in when I was 5.5, and
I don't even need to say that.
Well, yeah, I'm just
because
because
doing it for quite some time.
just because it doesn't make any sense at that point. I teach little kids now, and I'm like, there's some kids get it, but most they couldn't. They're just imitating moves, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying and stuff. They don't understand why or how to put it together.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was maybe about 13 where I started understanding how to put it together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How to set my traps. How if I went here, I knew what somebody was going to do, and then once I understood where you were going to be, I could just boom, hit you at will.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. Put on a clinic on that. As the first time I beat up a grown man, I was 13.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In a real fight in real life. So. And then after that, it became intoxicating, because you realize at 13 you have the ability to do things that most 13-year-old kids couldn't do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying and stuff like that. And then moving on forward from there.
Go ahead.
No, and I just feel like because when you were training then I didn't care about rank. What I cared about was, does this combination work?
Right.
Will it work?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so I'm using something really basic, right? When we all know this from back into the Kempo days, right? Yuriken Seiken, right? The back fist, reverse punch. Why did you throw the back fist? Why? Because I'm baiting him. He's going to lift up. He's going to either parry or block it, but it's going to get his arm to rise. I need his arm to rise because his ribs are now exposed, especially if he's in a isosceles stance or if he's standing sideways, right? For those that don't know what isosceles is, right? So and that I need that arm up. Because once that arm is up, it's going to open him up either for my reverse punch. It's going to hit that side kick. I can get that beautiful shinzagiri all day long.
Great for sport.
Yeah, I'm gonna yam him up. But here's the thing: in real life, same situation.
Yeah.
Instead of dropping into stance first and then firing, I just shot the back fist up.
Yeah,
and hit them with the back fist. All right, because they didn't block. But what did you think they did right away? They got hit and they touched
put their
hands
up.
Yeah, boom, and then I just bam inside shinzagiri, boom, and then yam. You know what I'm saying? So the techniques work, and they worked but again, you hit the nail on the head though. In the dojo, yeah, that's great, but I need to know they worked in real life.
Right.
I needed to know if they worked, right? And that was my mindset. And most of the guys we were training with back then, that was everybody's mindset.
Right.
Like, will it work in real life? I remember saying that in class once. Will it work?
Right.
And Sensei not getting in his feelings, being mad. Well, what you mean? Will it work? Let me. No, he was like, okay, let's do it.
Right, and
let's
that was
test
the
it out.
difference back then. See, you wouldn't have to question. I never really had to question anything because we were already training for it to work for real.
Yeah,
But
you would ask. You were allowed to ask.
Right.
Not disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And since they never took it as disrespectful. In fact, I still teach that way still to this day. If I'm teaching something, I don't mind if a student says to me, yeah, will it work? Okay, all right, so you're saying that the grab is here, and this is why it works. Boom, boom, and this is what will happen. All right, so you got these three options. Either the person's going to regrip, they're going to look to reset, they're going to look to get away, they're going to look to strike. So now you're going to work these three options. Boom, 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 and then here's the information and why it works to cover these three options. If he tries to step away, you slide in uchimata. If he comes or tries to catch around you, boom, you're going to get him on a haragoshi. If he's going to do this, you're going to catch that diashi anyway because of where his body's going to be. You know what I'm saying? And stuff. And you're doing it. And then, how does that apply to real life? life. Well, here we go. And then walk you through the process and stuff like that. From this one motion, we're going to cover these 3 things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, it's the principle is what I want you to get. You know what I'm saying? Because if we tried to address every situation, you know how many techniques you would have to learn if you couldn't understand, if you like no, you got one principle. One principle is going to teach you this. It's the same thing we talk about when we talk about grappling, framing. Once you understand framing, how to create, make frames, it fits the context of sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. However, you can take that same principle of framing and make your opponent create the frame for you. Case in point, I think Haskins, when he was here, we were talking about this. If I'm on my back and it's just me and you, I'm going to clinch up with you. I'm going to hold you to me. Why? Because you're going to try to create the space. That space I need to make a frame.
Right.
If I just tried to create the space, you'd punch me 5 million times, knock me the hell out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, no, I'm going to, boom, lock your arms up. You can't hit me. Maybe I can reach my knife. Maybe, I don't know. But I lock your arms up. Bah. Now you're trying to get your arms free so you can pummel me. You want to punch me, right?
And you're doing exactly what I want you to do. You're going to pull out.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what I
pull
want
that
you
arm
to do.
out. Boom. Great. Thank you. I need that space. Kick away from you, technical stand up. And if you weren't quick to your feet, man, you're going to eat my knee.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to season it a little bit with some sazon, some sofrito, some adobo. Bah! And put you to sleep. But the point I'm making, that used to be what every dojo.
Right.
At least every place I went to back
Right.
in the day. Now we're walking in places, and I get why sometimes folks don't want us there. I can tell you why folks don't want me there. You know what I'm saying? Because they listen to things like this, and they go, I don't want that dude in my school.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Because he's going to look at me, and
because we already look with a critical eye. We're not enthusiasts or no one who doesn't have any martial skill. We're both instructors here. So, yes, they know that we're really watching you.
I will say this, though, because we don't do an I got you. I've never done that.
Right.
I would rather tell you you're not a good fit for us and move on.
Right.
Or we're not a good fit for you. Than say, hey, because that's not our platform.
Yeah.
That's never been our platform. That's not the way we go. And actually, in most cases, we've been recommended by someone else to check you out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. They're
Yes.
no different than some folks have heard of us because they've been recommended by somebody else. Hey, the Marshall Mays, you ever heard those guys? They do a podcast, this, that, and the third. They do the modern combat. Check them out. Well, and maybe, but it's like all of us. We all kind of got that same hustle. Anybody that does what we do, that we're always trying to meet new people.
Yeah.
We're always trying to get exposed to things
Yep.
and stuff like that. But ultimately, I know that you and I sometimes see eye to eye on things. This is the one thing that sometimes we agree and sometimes we disagree. It's combatives, bro. Any martial system, if your martial system isn't making folks that can handle their business and defend themselves, I don't care that guy could, he got healthy and I am going to say it because I do get my feelings about it, that I don't care if that guy got healthy doing martial arts. I don't care if that guy learned how to balance his checkbook and stuff like that, or those kids, got better grades in school and stuff like that. Those are byproducts. Awesome, great. If that kid can't defend himself in real life, if that woman now, when she should have had better self-awareness and stuff like that, to get in her car to know she was in a bad situation, stayed there because you somehow as an instructor convinced her that she could handle her business in these staged events in your dojo, but she couldn't take a punch, she couldn't receive, I say, if you're an instructor or teacher, we're held to a higher standard, man. And that if you're not giving these, because again, it's combatives. You need to be able to fight, man.
Right.
You just need to be able to handle your business.
It's a slippery slope, Sensei Lopez, because you have folks out there like for me, I'm a Gendai Koryu school, so I mix a lot of things up because of my experience. And then I know really good instructors, far more experienced than myself, that are teaching the same disciplines. But they don't include any of the things that I include in my school, which are the actual physical intent of something happening. Because it's more for them. It's more like, like you have the glass bottle with the ship inside, and you're there constructing it with tweezers and things like that.
Arts, but I hear you.
Yeah, you got folks like that who just want they make it clear when you're looking at their school online. Hey, if you're here for self-defense, my school is not. This is not the school. If you're here because you want to compete or do some form of sparring. This is not my school. I can recommend you to a school who does that, but here we're teaching the old traditions of the samurai.
At that point, I would say to you, you're not a martial arts school. That, to be honest with you, you're just not. And the reason I'm going to make that statement is I liken those folks that want to teach this and have the dress up, get into that. There are places that do that. They do those reenactment wars all the time.
Aikido. It's like that too.
But that's what I'm saying. They got the reenactments and stuff like that. You know, the Civil War people that do that all the time, or the people, and they're enthusiasts. They just want to learn what it was like back then, experience a bit of culture that's different, but that's not martial arts. At that point, I wouldn't even call it.
That's a huge debate.
But I listen. I'm like that's
because then would you consider Aikido martial arts?
Well,
they do the same thing.
No.
It's the same thing.
They hold on to a tradition, but even with that, because you taught me that, I actually learned that doing an episode with you when we were talking about Aikido, and the art was geared around the principles that are being taught with Aikido. And even though they teach the ceremonial stuff, so the guy runs around him 3 or 4 times and he tosses them, if you look at the principles that are being applied to a system that was designed not to hurt your opponent, right? I mean, that was one of the things that the founder of the system, he was a Buddhist or something like that.
Yes.
So he was like, nah, man, listen,
Neo.
you reach for me, I'm going to redirect your energy and send you somewhere else. And maybe you'll just get tired of running into shit.
Yeah, to harm not the attacker.
Yeah, to harm not the attacker. So, but that's the point. It was the intent behind Aikido wasn't to decimate another person. It was to stop another person from decimating you.
No, but this is the same thing that are taught in these Koryu schools that are in Japan. All right, but except they're just taught in a way where it's we take all of that out. There is no randori here.
Well,
There's
yeah,
none of those things.
but that's what I'm saying to you.
But you're going to understand the principle, the technique, why it worked, why they did. You're going to learn all of that.
Yes. So, and I would say you can study war, right? We can study war reenactments and things like that. But I'm sorry, I have to bring it back to the European word, martial art. I'm like, because that's not what it's called in Japan and stuff like that.
It's called Budo.
Yeah, it's called Budo. And what is Budo? It's not martial arts. Because martial art, again, martial art had one. It's the word means art of making war. That's it. That's it. That's what the whole martial science is about.
When you look at the calligraphy itself, Budo, it translates into martial way, and then you have Bujutsu, which is the skill, martial skill,
a skill set that I'm learning. So so you can take Budo and say, no, well, this is all of this. This is the way we make the tea, how the process, how I make and that's a separate thing,
right?
You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So to be clear, what I'm saying is that if I'm talking about a jitsu or if I'm saying Budo, and I do think that words matter, like those things are important. So when we say martial art, you say, well, that's a big encompassing
that's a big
thing.
umbrella. So
now,
what
here
what are
in the
you
United
talking
States, that's what I would say to you. I said here in the United States, that's a big encompassing umbrella,
right?
Because over there or other places, they don't put it as a big encompassing umbrella. This is this and this is that,
right?
And they separate them.
Well, yes, they do. But like for instance, if you look up Budo, all right, or Bujutsu, there under the title of Bujutsu, depending on what you teach, there are different categories. So you have Bato Jutsu, or most people are familiar with Kinjutsu. And then you have Sojutsu, which is the spear. And then you have Yari Jutsu, which is the halberd. And then you have Jujutsu and Taijutsu.
But that's what I'm saying to you. So, but they have it categorized, so there's never a confusion. You're never confused.
Right.
You're never saying, well, that's martial arts. And it's just all, it's American. We say shit like that. We make it so that it's a big umbrella and we can fit all these many things in, and which confuses someone because, again, case in point, if I want to learn or wear suits of armor and do that, because I want to still do that
medieval
episode with
sword.
The medieval sword thing, well, then why can't we call that martial arts? Because, they're putting on suits of armor, right? And they're going and they're running around and they make these battles with each other, and come on, you saw how heavy that suit of armor was.
Yeah, it is martial arts.
That's what I'm saying. So
it's European martial arts.
But if we said, hey, this is martial arts, how many, we can actually, you know what, let's do that. that. Let's put it to a consensus or put it to a test. Post a thing and say, is this martial arts?
When you say martial arts, most people don't understand the scope of it. So when you say martial arts, everyone goes to Asia. That's it.
Yeah.
Period. All right. And so, yes, you're right. Most people are going to think martial arts. They're going to think
some form of combative.
Some form of combative, but they're going to automatically go to the Asian martial arts.
Yeah.
That's what's been popularized. That's
Yes,
what we know.
Yes. Yep.
Okay? They're not going to go into African martial arts, African combatives or European combatives.
But I guess what I'm saying to you is I think the one thing everybody will come away with, and I'd like to put this to a scientific experiment, right? And put this to a test. And ask the folks that listen to our show, put it on YouTube, put it on, and just say, hey, look, what do you call a martial art? You know what I'm saying? And I'm almost certain, I'm going to hypothesize that majority of the folks are going to come back with any kind of combatives, any kind of fighting and stuff like that. And then,
I heard one person and he posted a great argument that BJJ is not a martial art.
Well, yeah, in some cases it's not.
And this is what I'm saying. This is very interesting.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? He said 100% wholeheartedly. It's not a martial art.
Well, it's because if you look at the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I would agree that it's because it's missing a handful of things.
Oh, yes.
And stuff like that. However, where I would counter with that is, well, if you are on the ground with somebody who is skilled at keeping you on the ground, well, that might be a little different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? However, we have to eventually get to the ground.
Right, but the question is that, if it's art that is designed in war, not outside of war, it was created through war, okay, why the hell would you be on the ground with a bunch of people clashing?
Well, here's the thing.
Unless you're burying yourself among bodies to play dead.
No. Here's one. I'm going to tell you this, and this came from our military. The military, what they were doing in Afghanistan, those folks, because of what our modern military wear, they were tackling them and trying to kill them on the ground. So when I was teaching, even when I was teaching at Westover, one of the main things I got was, how do I get up?
You know what? That's a good point that you bring up, because that's more modern versus something that was like back in the that was the last place for a samurai to be.
But that's
all that armor.
But that's what I'm saying to you. When Kano, what's his name? Maseda? Am I saying that properly? Maseda Sensei? Maeda Sensei. Okay. I don't know why I keep saying Maseda, right? When Maeda Sensei was under Kano Jitsu, right? Because they always try to say, well, it's Jiu-Jitsu, which would later become Judo and stuff like that. But Kano Jitsu, and one of the things that he learned was, you end up on the ground, and you had to be able to handle your business on the ground too. And then remember when he went to Brazil, right, and started, because remember Kano sent everybody everywhere to spread the vision of judo, right? And when he got there, he was doing challenge matches routinely because that was a common thing back in the day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like that, challenge matches, and he adapted and evolved it because it's not completely, even though it comes directly from judo. It added other things in because the guy was fighting challenge matches against boxers, against people that were French foot fighters.
Yeah.
He was. So at one point in time, it was developed to address fighting.
Just that. No, it makes sense because it's modernized.
Yeah, it's modernized.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, boxing, the way we see it now, and if you watch bare knuckle fighting, which is very, you can see where it's kind of changed here. Why my hands are turned this way and not like this with boxing gloves on. Because this way I can cover easier than, you know what I'm saying? Like I learned that from a bare knuckle guy was talking about that. He was like, no, man, the reason why my hands are right here. And I think, even what Glenn Beck was talking about it too. I think
there's a good documentary. There's a good documentary on Netflix that deals with just that. It's called Gavna.
Yeah. but what I'm saying is so, when one person wants to say, well, no, it's not really, it's the sport. Yeah. One can make the same thing about judo. Judo, the sport of judo, is not designed for real life fighting.
Right.
And stuff like that. However, you can take the things from judo, or even the way I learned judo as a martial art, and it was 100% good for fighting.
Konnichiwa. I'm Israel Lopez Sensei of the Martial Maze. Right now, you might be asking yourself, what is the Martial Maze? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Martial Maze is a martial arts podcast that deals with the complexities and pitfalls that one encounters when navigating the field of study that is martial arts. These discussions are from the points of view of actual martial artists, and we cover it all, with the occasional special guest, who of course are masters in their fields of study. From the president of the United States Judo Association to karate and kung fu royalty. Myself and Barakulat Shidoshi have over 40 plus years of martial experience. So please join us as we make our way through the martial maze. New episodes drop weekly, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Let me tell you this. There was a story that I heard from my sensei. I don't remember the names, but they were two judoka. And because judo, like you said, was taught as a martial art and not a sport, and there was a competition that was taking place. And so one judoka took him down, took him down severely, slammed him down really hard. All right. You could see that the other judoka was hurt. All right. And so the judoka that slammed him down, it looked like he was giving him a hand up, all right? And he kind of reached for his hand, and then he swept him with a Dayashi Harai. Wham! Right? And when he did that, it was weird how the crowd reacted. Some of them was like, well, that's not honorable. Why would you do such a thing like that? And so there was a flip side of looking at this, and this is something that my sensei brought up to me. He was like, you have to understand, right? Judo is Budo, all right? And the whole sport thing was very Western, all right? And that influenced a lot of things on, like, for instance, when you're in a boxing ring and you beat someone down to the ground, the ref would jump in. You can't continue pounding on the individual. Yeah, you got to let him get up and see if he's conscious or not.
Or if the guy turns his back and you hit him.
Right.
That's
not
a
good.
bad thing, yeah.
So a lot of this it bled through in Japan, and so they had started adopting some of these particular mindsets. This mindset. Well, that's, that he should be disqualified for that. So the guy who took him down with the Dayashi Harai, he noticed that the rest of the Japanese people were not feeling him like that. They thought what he did was wrong. Now, the question was asked, why would you do that? Well, his answer was, I was trained in Budo. And that's what we are trained to do. And so what was the lesson? Well, the guy on the ground, if he trained Budo, he should have never left his guard down. He should be ready for combat and war, because it doesn't work that way. Okay? And so both of them, so was one right or one wrong? Actually,
they were both right.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see,
but that's what I'm saying. So I mean, circling back to just that, I said when we try to big tent martial arts and just let all that other shit in, I guess ultimately, if we have those guys running around in suits of armor, then that's a martial art, and they should be right. But I know, having said that, there are a huge ton of folks that are like, absolutely not.
If
it's not martial art,
it's developed from war.
So I'm saying. So again, going back to, because when you made that point, that's the point I'm getting at is, well, if it's no fighting involved, it's just teaching you about a culture, this, that, and the third, I will personally say that's not a martial art. You're teaching me about a culture. You're teaching me all these other things. And yes, there may be some principles involved here, there, and everywhere. And I get to wear the beautiful hamaka pants and wear, and kind of getting was it engrossed? Am I saying the right word?
No.
Yeah, I'm just embracing, that's a better way of saying it, embracing the culture and getting all of that and learning what it was like to do. It's like having a very old car. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and I'm getting the original chrome or the original wall, the white wall tires, and getting all these things. And I have, or like you said, I like your point better than mine. Having that ship, and I'm putting it in the bottle, and I'm just taking my time, just recreating a ship, and stuff like that. That's. I just no. It's not combative.
I understand, and that's how I try to make sense of it. No more different than going to a museum and seeing a stuffed bear. It used to be a real bear. It's no longer anymore. Okay, and that's where the martial art has went. In the museum.
Well, yeah, and I go back to just that, circling all the way back, because I've said that like 5 million times today. So you call this episode "Circling Back." It goes back to why I played that reel, because it's why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is becoming a lot more respected and revered, because it pulls away a lot of those shenanigans. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. They have their own politics going on. But a lot of the shenanigans that we see with martial arts systems, it tried to bleed its way into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and was quickly snuffed out.
I agree, and I say the same thing with Japanese martial arts. If you are in a traditional, authentic Japanese martial art, it's the same process, all right? It's going to take, at least in order to get a Minkyo, 30 years.
Yeah. Well,
all right?
yes.
If you're going to be an instructor, if you're going, I mean, like a Minkyo Kaiten, about 30 years, all right? If you are the inheritor, but one doesn't need one because there's only one. There can only be one inheritor of the system. Same thing with Judo. There was only one red belt. No one else can get that red belt.
Yeah.
There's only one, and that goes to the successor. Now, you had your sixth, 7th, and 8th got the red and white, okay? And so there was these distinctions. But what the belt system did, it gave the opportunity for a bunch of folks to rise up to a certain status where one can be Renshi and then go to Kyoshi to Hanshi.
Well, and again, it was whether or not you'd be taken serious. People would take your opinion seriously.
Right.
That 6 is really important.
Well,
I want to wrap up with this part. In no way, shape, or form do I not like karate. Do I not like Kempo? Do I not? No, these are things I do like. I love, because this is part of how I grew up.
Right.
And I'd love to see things go back to the way they were because, again, I'm watching too many people leave the traditional martial arts systems that we know here in America, leave, and they're saying just what I'm saying, like, yo, no, I spent years learning something only to find out it was trash. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going, no, the art's not trash. How you were taught that art was trash.
yeah, and how about you may be trash?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
not everybody can fight. You can learn something, but not everybody knows how to put it together. It's you.
Yeah. Well, in that case, and they leave and they go someplace else, and now they develop a feeling. This is so much better because the information, they can use it. They're battle testing it left and right. And that's what I don't like.
And that's good that you made that very freaking clear, because that's what people are doing. They're comparing one art to another because of their experience they had.
Well, remember, no matter who you are, majority of the truths and the things that we cling to are based upon our perceptions, are based upon our life experiences. The reason why we have the show, the reason why we talk the way we talk, the reason why I do is I'm still drawing on X amount of years of having done martial arts. I'm drawing on my personal life experiences. And I'm always drawing, that's literally going to guide where I'm from. Actually, there's a really cool quote that comes from a book. I actually saved it and stuff like that because, yes, it's from a book from Dean Koontz. It's a Relentless, but the quote comes from I just took the quote from that book, but it's like, each of us are the sum of our experiences, not in a Freudian sense that we are victims of them, but in a sense that we rely on past experiences as a primary source for our actions. Love that.
That's beautifully said.
Because it's 100% right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, and stuff like, and that's so like when I'm coming, even with the way I feel, I know, like I said today, and I know I said it so many times, people are gonna be in their feelings, but it's true. I'm still basing this off of me, what I believe that martial arts should be. Now, does it mean I'm 100% right? There are going to be people who are going to really agree with me. There are going to be people who are going to be like, dude, come on, not everybody wants to be a combat killer, bro. And I'm like, I'm not saying that everybody should be a combat killer. What I'm saying is, if you're teaching a martial art, your student should be able, at the bare minimum, be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Period. If by green belt,
that's what you're saying, this is what it's for.
Yes.
Or
at least, or be clear about your shit.
Yeah.
Yes, be clear that you're not really teaching a martial arts system as a way of combatives.
Right.
You're teaching, I don't know, gobbledygook.
I would say this also, too, before we close this, instructors out there, please keep it honest with, potential students. If they are seeking self-defense, do not, and this is just me, once again, people may agree or may not agree with me. Do not say you teach self-defense and then teach them karate or something like that, in a sense, and kind of frame it as such. I'm like, no, that's where it is, and it's designed for what it's designed for, all right? Because you give people a false hope, false sense, all right? If someone came in and wanted to learn self-defense, you say, and it's an Aikido school, and you're saying, no, this is a self-defense school, and you're teaching them how to standing postures and horse stance and all that, that's not self-defense. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I would say, I think any form of combatives can be utilized as self-defense. But I hear what you're saying because it's very different and stuff.
It's misleading.
Well, it is, because like you can give people good self-protection, good self-defense, give them a handful of your class. You can do that in a couple of weeks.
Right.
And if they take those best practices and continue doing them, this, that, and the third, not a couple of years, but a couple of weeks, to give somebody enough good information where they can live their lives.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But teaching someone how to breathe and punch properly is not self-defense.
No, I'm teaching you combatives at that point.
Yes,
but that's what I'm saying. I'm
different.
teaching you I'm teaching you, not only am I teaching you good, the byproduct, again, will be the self-defense. Yes,
Right.
you will have that. And they're like, that's the byproduct. But I'm actually I'm turning you into a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning you to be able to go to a place, not just physically, but mentally, where you may have to take a life.
Right.
And that is the mindset. Because again, like our military,
Right.
I'm trying to get you they're trying to get you to a place because you might have to take a life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not saying that you need to.
Right.
Just you might have to.
And that's what I call the art.
Yes.
All right. And we learn the art of killing.
Yes. That art of making war, baby. Martial arts. The art of making war. Living in the martial way. God darn it. Anyway, I've been cussing all day. All right. So with that being said, I'm with my partner in crime, Barakula Chidoshi.
And I'm with my partner here, Israel Lopez Sensei.
And you've been listening to
The Martial Maze.